Finally, we get to talk about another LEGO Transformer of mine, and I'm so sorry that this series has been taking so long for another episode to come out. I've just completely zoned out from the whole Transformers thing, but all of a sudden I just suddenly got a little burst of interest, and I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to continue the series and all, because people have been probably waiting for a long time for more of this. The LEGO Transformers showcase of my Demolisher seems to be interesting to people, and also why not continue it on with yet another one of mine? And this time on a real goodie, Rampage or Skipjack, one of the two. I'm not really sure if it's Skipjack or Rampage. It's very much debated in the Transformers fandom as to who exactly this one is. I love Rampages or who. I'm gonna go with Rampage for now. Sometimes I go with Skipjack. It doesn't really matter here. I sometimes, either way, you get the idea. I love Rampage's design, I love his sound effects, I love his fight sequences, and I love the hints of personality that were showcased throughout the film and his very few scenes that are actually very up close. And I just loved getting to recreate this guy in LEGO. Obviously, I decided to take some creative liberties with his design, as you can see if you compare him to the actual film version. But out of all of them, a lot like Demolisher, I must say that this is one of the most accurate and honestly one of the most well-made, sturdy, articulated, and just detailed. I have very much made my own additions to him over time, making him larger and maybe fixing parts, etc. But honestly, this is definitely one of my favorites. Easily goes up at the top. And honestly, with all the various mechanical parts and intricacies to his design, you can easily do so much with this guy. And yeah, this guy was one of the first ones I also created. I believe it was Demolisher first, yes, then maybe Long Haul, and then I believe this guy perhaps. Maybe he was like the fourth or fifth or so. I remember doing a Mixmaster and maybe Scrapper as well. But I believe this guy was fifth place. And now let's showcase the further details. The face, as you can see here, you have the yellow eyes and the weird looking mouth. I tried to recreate that sort of tooth look on him and all, but with these parts that stick forward out. I should maybe find red pieces somewhere that have a bit like this kind of, but more jagged ended and all. There's ones that are like that, but they're kind of rare to come by, especially if they're red. And you have the part sticking out at the top here with these lights and everything, and these sort of lever things that are sort of supposed to look like antennas, and a sort of motor part on the back, and also it's supposed to be like an engine. And of course, these two large antennas obviously wouldn't be there, and are different sizes, but they do make him look very interesting. You've got the large joint here, which allows him to be articulated very well in any direction. Very proud of using these for this guy. And along the sides and all, especially right here, these parts spin around and make him just seem all the more alive. You have these little butt cheek gun things that I like to add on the back. And you have this back connector piece that connects this part. And this is where the entire leg, tail thing, whatever you want to call it, comes into play. This thing in the movie is very complicated and all, and it has so many joints. It's very much a moving worm tail thing. And with my Legos and all of my own, it would be impossible. It would be like tech mech kind of stuff or whatever in order to recreate it perfectly accurately. So what did I do? I get creative. As you can see, it first connects here with the body around this area. And this part tends to break off easily and all, but with a lot of pieces being added on top, you can easily get it to connect on just about right. And you have all various kinds of pieces and all, and you can have the whole thing move out to a sort of straight look, as you can see like this. You also have another little tail piece that goes inwards like this, and these little cup mug things. I don't know if I'll keep all these on the body. There's some more at the front here near his neck, kind of, which is also elongated. A while ago I made this look longer. Oh, I've got to get him closer to the camera. And yeah, it turned out very nicely looking. It makes him look a lot more alive. There's also sort of a megaphone piece and all that's connected to a hole insert. That also just makes his neck stay in a lot easier. And you have all these weird pieces on the bottom as well. As you can see, these just simply are like base supports, and they fit in quite nicely with the tail and stuff like that. As you can see like this, you can almost have him sit on his back like so. How cool is that? Very articulated, like I said. And you have all kinds of like gear pieces and all, which you would expect to find in the sort of treads as well. So those are kind of realistic. More joints, of course, in this back piece. And you can have him like this, bend this part like this, and so like that. You have his perfect standing position, and he looks great. And yeah, this bottom piece and all, I remember this wasn't here at one point and was very much smaller. It didn't support crap, but when I added this, he stood out perfectly. It does look a bit weird from a distance, and I may revise it in the future, but honestly, especially with these parts and all, and considering how thin it looks and ending with this big foot thing, but after a while, you can imagine making a Devastator thing, and this looks like an actual foot of his. This would be amazing. And hey, instead of making a yellow version of this guy, I could just recreate Devastator and all. How cool would that be? But yeah, now let's finally talk about one of the more prominent parts. First of all, though, you have the chest here underneath his face. This is using like some sort of a Star Wars droid piece that I have, as well as some other parts. And it just kind of makes it seem like a sort of like part that you don't want to touch or whatever. Like underneath here, there's like a spark or something. If you have like a huge autobar arm going in there, like Lockdown's weapon thing, which I don't consider Lockdown and stuff like that canon. AoE and the last night are their own things, baby. This is where the spark would be. Or maybe even this is the spark, who knows. Just kind of stuff to make him look more muscular or something. And no, the Transformers don't have muscles, don't give into that thought. But yeah, as you can see, if I maybe zoom out a little bit, here are the arm pieces, very detailed parts and everything. And the possibly best parts of this whole guy, maybe, are the treads. Making these things would be very difficult. I have these tread pieces that are of individual pieces, and they're this wide, I'd say. And they would go on and on and on and on. If I were to use those and having them flopping around, sadly I don't have enough of them in order to do both. Plus, how would you even connect them since they're a dead end at the end and not a big loop that you can contain? So these were the second best option. And man, they do work, I must say. Not as well as those would, but they'll do for the time being. I couldn't quite get these things to squish in the dead-ended treads or whatever, which were pieces and everything. So using these would work because they can't fall out or anything. And you have this piece right here just because extra detailing, why not? You have all kinds of stuff like that. And you have these end pieces, you have this as well, which can bend out as well. Just kind of more transformation stuff. And at the back, as you can see, there's a sort of hand railing, which you would expect to see on the actual transformed version's cab or whatever. And it looks good. These also fold around and just make him look all the more intimidating. A bit like Bumblebee's wings. And on this one, I added a little chainsaw thing for no reason. Just to add more stuff to it, because why not? And you have these little end pieces, and these go on for a long time. And as you can see here, there's this sort of shotgun thing and all, which is where his blasters are. But for the time being, and for the longest time, I've had these little end pieces with these caps inside. I may remove these in order to showcase more of this, so it actually looks like a gun. Pew pew! But these look pretty darn good. I guess they're just sort of extender things for being able to shoot better that you can remove. And I'll talk more about the removable pieces later, as you can see over there. And then there's the other arm, which is basically the same thing. Oh, and then you also have these yellow things. And hey, if you recall, Rampage or Skipjack or whatever, it does have a red body, but there are some yellow parts in the sort of gear system and everything like that, underneath the treads and stuff. This side essentially is the same, only a few minor differences like this, and this as well. So there's not as much to go on about on this side, but it does look pretty dang good as well. Oh, and you also have a steering wheel, so that's where that would go. So yeah, that right there for you is Skipjack / Rampage, whatever he's actually called. Definitely, easily, one of the best ones of my entire collection. So glad of how this guy came out looking. And I easily want to make him even better than what he is. Though, for the time being, this is amazing. Now let's talk about these extended pieces that I made later on. Here you have the sort of cab window thing with the little rooftop that folds in and stuff like that. Just pretend with your imagination. Where this would go on him would be right here. This makes him look even larger and more intimidating. But as you can see, this easily falls off, so I need to, in the future, find a way to get this to stay on in just one single peg. It's very heavy and top heavy, so yeah. This, meanwhile, is just simply a fun little rifle thing and all. Considering the fact that there's not two of these things, which would allow it to be very symmetry-based, this is just simply some little fun extended thing. A bit like one of those things that Q makes for Ironhide. Those aren't exactly... They work in the transformation thing eventually and all, but they're not exactly coming with him and everything. But like Optimus Prime's rifle or something, I don't know. And this doesn't really connect to much of anything. Maybe somewhere in here you can get it on. I did this a while ago, and it does work somehow. I'm just not doing that right now. But yeah, this thing also looks pretty dang good. It did look different and all. At one point I took the whole thing apart and redid it, and it probably didn't look so weird and all over the place as it does here. But yeah, those are the two extra pieces. And honestly, in terms of scaling, obviously since Demolisher is way too small, of course, I just kind of imagine Demolisher as just some weird, normal-sized excavator kind of thing, and he's a bulldozer, a large one at that. And both of them have treads and stuff like that. How cool is that? Oh, there you go, buddy. But yeah, two of the red ones, and I believe that's all the red ones for now, if I can think correctly. I do have some orange ones that are of my own. But that's Rampage for you, /Skipjack. Tell me which one you think it is in the comments below. I've been all over the place over time. But yeah, there you have it. I hope you like him as well as I did. And boy, making him was a heck of a lot of fun. So that's essentially all I have to say about Rampage. Super proud of how this guy looks. See you in the next one.